Okay, maybe it will work with this thing. So, Lior, you just sit here, I guess, okay? Périphérique, audio muet, okay? Corrigé. Yes, so it's corrigé.
So I can click here on the.
Where is it?
In order to move the slide.
No, you have to click on that other thing because it's projected from there.
Ah, okay.
Yes, I sent you the. Yes, I sent it yesterday from from the Atelier.
Sorry. I see.
Okay, okay, no, it's okay. Joachim says he can hear me. Okay. Fair enough. Now close that so we don't have problems. Okay. Ouais, et d'autres personnes. Mais jusqu'à maintenant, on ne pouvait pas m'entendre, mais j'ai fait un truc, il n'y a pas besoin de ça. So you have to sit here, but somehow you will have to also change the. Okay, so you can attach this here, so we can. Right.
So let's see. Ah, but I need to attach it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
טוב, כי אם היית שולח לי לפני, אז זה לא קשור, האמת. בכל מקרה. הנה. תשים את זה, אתה יודע איך לעשות את זה? היא פה. אוקיי, זה שלך. We are only 3 people, so we can, you know, we'll take the liberty of interrupting the people.
Yeah, oh yes, of course.
Okay, so hi to the two other people who are here, and to the people who are joining us on the internet. And today we have Lior here with us. Lior Lat from Bar-Ilan University is going to talk about how penguins differ from kangaroos, or pluralization in Hebrew. And the PowerPoint presentation is on the link below in the chat box. And so for everybody to look at while Lior is presenting. Lior, are you okay with recording this?
Yes, of course.
Maybe later we will take it off.
Yeah, if I don't like what I see.
Don't like what you are.
Okay.
Okay, so take it away.
If I look too fast. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm a morphologist. I study morphology and its interface with different linguistic fields. And one of my great interests is the adaptation of loanwords, mostly into Hebrew and Palestinian Arabic from English and other languages. And today I'm going to talk about the differences between penguins and kangaroos in Hebrew. And I'll start with some online examples. So when we examine the pluralization of loanwords, words like penguin are not very interesting. We just add to them the Hebrew plural masculine suffix im. So we have penguin, penguinim, you add im, and you have an online example, higiu od shlosha penguinim. Okay, 3 more penguins arrived. So that's not very interesting. However, when we have words like kangaroo, that end with a vowel, let's go over 4 examples. Here we can see at least 4 different ways of expressing, denoting the plural form of kangaroo. So the first one, שלושה kangaroos שהיו בכלוב ברחו, 3 kangaroos that were in the cage escaped. So here we have kangaroo plus im, just like penguin. In contrast, in the next example, שני קנגורים רבו על נקבה. 2 kangaroos were fighting over for 1 female. So here what we have is we delete the last vowel of the stem, not kangaroim, kangurim. Okay? Not all speakers accept it, by the way, but examples can be found. In the next example, we have the singular form, kept as is. קרב אגרופים בין שני kangaroo. Okay, so שני is 2, a fist fight between 2 kangaroos. So it's obviously very clear from the context that it's plural, but the singular form is used, kangaroo, as is. And in the last example, we just borrow the plural form as is from English. עם להקה של 34 kangaroos, with a group of 34 kangaroos. So here it's again written in Hebrew letters, here it's transcribed, of course, but the English plural form is taken as is. So we have 1 long word, kangaroo, with at least 4 options for expressing its plural form, keeping it in the singular form, kangaroo, taking the English form, kangaroos, and what is more interesting is taking the loan word and adding to it the suffix, but there are 2 versions, kangaroim and kangurim. Right, yeah, okay, it's Evan's work, actually. There's vowel harmony, so there's variation. So Evan Cohen wrote a lot about it, but yeah, I probably demonstrate variation. Yes, some say kangaroo and some say kanguru, but I will not talk about it. But there's very nice work by Cohen. Okay, so why do we have such variation in a word like kangaroo, but not in a word like penguin and many others? So as I said before, this is a word that ends with a vowel which is not a. I'll talk about it later on. And words that end with vowels which are not a are relatively rare in Hebrew. Okay, so Hebrew speakers, basically, there is an expression in Hebrew that say, "לא יודעים איך לאכול את זה." Literally, they don't know how to eat it, which means Hebrew speakers don't know how to deal with it. Okay, it's something very peculiar to them. We don't have such words in Hebrew. And as a result, there is variation, and speakers opt for different strategies of pluralization. So as like I said, it exists almost only in cases where the word ends with a vowel, which is not a. And what is also important to mention is that the possibility of keeping it in the singular form or keeping it as the English plural form, again, does not exist in other cases. So we have, for example, kangaroos, but I couldn't find an example like penguins, okay? I mean, again, potentially it's possible, but it's very rare. Or casinos, I found, okay? But not croissants, okay? So the existence of the English plural form or the singular form, which is by itself quite rare, is found mostly when the word ends with a vowel. And like I said, it is an indication of the fact that it's some kind of alien for the morphological system of Hebrew, and as a result, variation occurs.
Why would you find one song if it's not borrowed from?
No, it's borrowed from, can be borrowed from any language.
So actually, the thing is that people may pluralize words with Z, even if they're not.
Yeah, I did not really, actually, I did not relate to the source. So again, a Hebrew speaker can hear it in English and borrow it as is from English, croissants. But yeah, if the borrowing is directly from French, of course, there's no reason to find it. Yeah, so I should have used an English example, but it's the same principle. Yeah, it can be basically from any language. But I'm saying I did not think about when I put the example, but what I said, when we can find borrowed words from English with z or s in Hebrew, it's only when they end with a vowel. So penguin is a better example. Okay, so the goals of the study, by the way, should I look here or at you? Because it's very, okay. So the goal, Okay. So the goals of the study is to account for variation and lack thereof in final vowel deletion of long nouns, establishing a hierarchy of vowel droppability. I don't know if this word exists, but I like it, with respect to Hebrew vowels, because as I'll show, they don't all behave the same, and it will partially predict which vowels are more or less likely to be dropped based on the interaction of markedness and faithfulness constraints, as well as the idea of paradigm accessibility in word formation. Okay, so the focus of this talk is less on forms like kangaroo and kangaroos as plural, but more on the affixation or suffixation of the Hebrew plural suffix, which means the competition between words like kangaruim or kangurim. Now, by the way, it could be with a glottal stop or without a glottal stop between the two vowels. I do not relate to this question for this talk. I will assume there is no glottal stop, and Noam has a recent study on the fate of gutturals in Hebrew in general. So I will assume that there is no glottal stop there, but the analysis would work the same without. So the competition here is between two main types of constraints. In kanguruim with or without the glottal stop, it is more faithful to the base because it preserves the base as is and just glues the vowel. Kanguruim is motivated by a margetness constraint because if you say kanguruim, you get a diphthong like ui or oi and other diphthongs, which are again relatively rare in Hebrew. So again, this is quite a weird, less familiar structure in Hebrew, and in order to avoid it, you can delete the vowel. So the competition is mainly between markedness and faithfulness.
Why do you say that you get a diphthong? You say that kangaroo, if you have kangaroo, like in the first example on the top left, you have a hiatus, not a diphthong.
It depends on how we analyze it, but it would work the other. Okay, but again, it would be a marked structure.
When you say kangaroo,
yeah,
so you have this is four syllables. It's not a diphthong. And in that case, unless you want to say that somehow people say kangaroo, I mean, with one syllable, hui.
Yeah, I think there's variation. I think it can be both.
Yeah. Removed on. But then in the hat, it can be very
Right, right. Yeah.
Also, kangaroo, the first example there on the top, is so it's a hiatus, and it's not a rare hiatus in Hebrew, right?
Oui?
It's not, no, oui is a diphthong.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's not so rare in Hebrew, but it doesn't matter. The oui is like, I don't know, shwim, it's all over the place. Right? Not with the suffix in.
Yeah, but yeah, shwim.
So shwim.
Yeah.
I mean, so kangurim as an onset,
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I don't think it's avoiding diphthongs or hiatus. It's not. I don't think it's avoiding diphthongs. Maybe it's avoiding hiatus.
Fine, but okay. My idea is that the competition is between keeping the base as is or avoiding some marked structure. We can debate what it is, but yeah, this is the main competition, right? And also, if you insert a glottal stop, again, this sequence of vowel, glottal stop, consonant, vowel, again, it's a marked structure, whatever we call it. It's not very common. Right.
And before stress vowels and kangaroo, and these nouns typically the suffix is not
right.
Also,
no. Kangaroo. Yeah.
That's an important point.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in a few minutes because loanwords keep their stress as is. Okay. So loanwords in general can undergo two kinds of adaptations. Phonological adaptation, again, croissant in French, I'm in the culinary mood. So again, Hebrew speakers say croissant or corazon for different phonological reasons, but that's not the point. And of course, they undergo morphological adaptation, which means they're adapted to the morphological word formation or inflection strategies of the language. Just generally, plural formation is, of course, a primary inflectional process. It's a basic morphological marker on nouns, depends on the language, of course. It has a very central role in morphosyntax, and of course, it has implications for language acquisition. There have been many studies about the acquisition of the plural system in Hebrew. And in order to explain the variation in the pluralization of loanwords, we first have to look at what happens in Hebrew native words. And here we have a relatively more messy system. So to form plural of Hebrew native nouns, we have, first of all, gender distinction, also for inanimate nouns. As a general rule, the masculine suffix is im, the feminine suffix is ot, and there is always stress shift in native words. There is stress shift to the suffix. Okay, so on the left side, we have masculine nouns. So, for example, sir, sirim, pot, bakbuk, bakbukim, battle, targil, targilim. And for feminine nouns, we usually add ot. Here, I took only nouns that end with a, which are usually feminine, but there are other cases. But for the purpose of this talk, I took only words that end with a. So sira, sirot, and of course, pay attention that sira is not the feminine of sir. Okay, it just happens to look like it, but it's not. So when we have words that end with a, we drop the a and add the suffix ot, and again, it takes the stress. Sira, sirot, boat, chavila, chavilot, package, uga, ugot, cake.
Maybe for Matil, I don't know how you are. Because you're not marking the stress.
Oh, I mark it with an underline. Yeah, I had some issues with the font here. Sorry. Okay, the underline means stressed.
So you can see the stress moving from the base to the top. And all of these are native words.
In the singular, right. Yeah, sira, sirot, chavila, chavilot. So the suffix always attracts the stress. Okay. But we have many irregularities. For example, kir, which is masculine, wall, we say kirot and not kirim. Why? I don't know. Okay, maybe there are historical reasons, but it seems arbitrary. Or shulchan, table, shulchanot, and not shulchanim. Again, they still attract the stress, but we have here an unpredictable suffix. And we have it the other way around with feminine nouns that take im, like beitza, egg, beitzim, eggs. Milah, there's a redundant L here. Milah, word, milim, words. Again, these things are arbitrary. They're assumed to be lexicalized and frozen. And again, synchronically, there seems to be no reason. No, adjectives are very regular. Yeah, and this can be explained by the difference between contextual and inherent inflection. I will not discuss adjectives today, but adjectives are, and also verbs. Participle verbs are completely irregular. Yeah. Yeah, so in adjective agreements, so kir and shulchan will get masculine adjectives and verbs, and the same for and vice versa for eggs. Absolutely. Exactly. The only irregularity is that it gets an unpredictable suffix. Okay. In addition, there are also many cases of phonological alternations in the stem. For example, sefer in the segolate pattern. So the plural is not seferim, but sfarim, or seferim, but sfarim. So we have deletion of the first vowel, a change of the second vowel. In sorek, scanner, we say sorkim and not sorikim. So we drop the vowel. In daf, we say dapim and not dafim. We change the consonant. We have stop to fricative alternations. And again, many of these alternations are historically motivated by synchronically. It's hard to motivate them. There's no, in most cases, there's no issue of saying something like dafim, for example. And just to demonstrate it, in contrast to loanwords, I will take several monosyllabic words with the same vowel and show how they behave differently. Okay, so just the background in interim summary. In native words, we have stress shift, systematic. We have some extent of regularity in the selection of the suffix, unpredictable suffixes, and we have sometimes phonological alternations of the base. Okay, in loanwords, we have higher regularity, as many studies have shown. There is no stress shift, so croissant, croissantim stays the same. Hamburger, hamburgerim, no matter where the stress is, okay, it stays the same, or even longer word like immobilizer, so immobilizerim, okay, the stress never shifts. And we have predictable suffixes, so the default is im, okay, so most loanwords are perceived grammatically as masculine. I'm talking for now mostly about inanimate nouns and some animals, but mostly inanimate nouns. So they are perceived by default as masculine. Okay, again, croissant, croissantim, hamburger, hamburgerim. When the loanwords end with a, okay, they are perceived grammatically as feminine, and they take the suffix ot and deleting the a, just like Hebrew words, but without shifting the stress. So lasagna, lasagnot. Okay, and again, there's nothing feminine about lasagna, obviously, and it's less related to phonology here, but it's interesting by itself that it is perceived as feminine only because it looks feminine because it ends with a, morphologically. There's nothing, of course, semantic about it. Okay, so the suffixes are highly predictable, and there are no alternations of the base, mostly. And just to show you that also the issue of grammatical agreement. So hamburger and pizza, hamburger is masculine, pizza is feminine. So the tasty hamburger was eaten, hamburger ha'ta'im ne'echal. So ta'im is tasty, ne'echal is passive verb, was eaten. When it's feminine, when it's pizza, a pizza ha'te'ima ne'echla. So for ta'im, te'ima, tasty, ne'echal, ne'echla. So there's complete agreement, which shows that pizza or lasagna or whatever are treated grammatically as feminine. Okay, so just to demonstrate, if we take the next 6 monosyllabic words, they all have this structure of CVC with a medial O. And I'll begin with loanwords. So with loanwords, it's completely regular. They all take im, kod, kodim. Shot, like a vodka shot, shotim. They always take im systematically. They are perceived as masculine by default, no stress shift, and no alternation of the base. In contrast, when you look at the 4 native words, each of them has a different behavior. So in tof, tupim, drum, okay, we take a predictable suffix, it takes the stress, and we have alternation of one of the consonants, fricative to stop. Tof, tupim, and the vowel, yeah, from o to u. And again, synchronically, it's almost impossible to explain it. I mean, there's no problem saying tofim. In show, ox, we have shvarim. So we add a consonant, we change the vowel, and again, we take a predictable suffix with stress shift. In bo, which is masculine, we see it in agreement, we say borot, a hole in the ground, we say borot and not borim. Again, no apparent reason. And ho, which is also hole, but like a tiny hole in the shirt or something, we have the predictable suffix im, and there is no alternation of the base, but the stress shift. Okay, and this is explained here in the rightmost column. So we have all sorts of varieties with native words: predictable suffix, unpredictable suffix, stress shift, and sometimes we also have alternations. What I want to show is that loanwords behave in a very uniform fashion, and it's interesting by itself because it highlights and gives us a window of opportunities to see how the online constraints work here in this movement, work online. Okay, when we get to loanwords that end with vowels, we have a different story, and I'll show that the behavior is different based on the last vowel of the word. So like I said, when the loan nouns end with a, the behavior is quite systematic. Just like we do with Hebrew words, we delete the last vowel, so it's somehow perceived as some sort of suffix. It's not a suffix by any means, but it behaves like it behaves in native words. We drop the a, we add the ot, and it takes the stress. So pizza, pizzot, and not pizzaot. Okay, lasagna, lasagnot, and not lasagnaot. Opera, operot. Villa, villot. Pijama, pijamot. Very systematic. With stress shift. Sorry, with keeping the stress as is, unlike Hebrew words. Pizza, pizzot. Lasagna, lasagnot. We never say pizzot, lasagnot. Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, and in French, I think when loanwords are borrowed, they take the stress shifts to the end. Twitter, hamburger. Yeah, yeah. So native words shift the stress. Non-native words do not shift the stress. They keep the location faithful. But the same for feminine. So if you compare, for example, pizza to sira, so in both, so in sira, the stress shifts to the suffix sira, sirot, and not siraut or whatever. In pizza, it keeps its location. Pizza, pizzot, and not pizzot. Okay.
Okay, you say this is not a topic by any means, but it's treated like a topic.
Right.
So who says it's not?
Because it has no base.
Yes,
It's yes, yeah, very old argument. Ah, yeah, but Hebrew don't have, I mean, access to this knowledge. Yeah. Also in Sirah in Hebrew, I don't think it's a suffix. In Sirah or Shida or Chavila.
But if you have a word that is borrowed with peace, and doesn't have a base in Hebrew,
yeah,
like I don't know what, publicist, okay? Would you say that in East is not a suffix, but in something else it is a suffix? Like
no.
Shokist, in East is a suffix in Shokist,
yeah,
but not in publicist because there's no public.
No. But I think it's different. I have to think about it. But
I think it's they're very similar to these.
Yeah.
And importantly, yeah, you don't have to. The does not have to be feminine in the original word, right?
Yeah.
So you get
Yeah.
problema in Spanish is masculine, but in Hebrew it's feminine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, speakers don't have access to this knowledge. Okay, now it gets more interesting when words end with other vowels, and I'll start with words that end with O and U. And here we have variation. In some words, we have no deletion at all, again, according to what I found. So for example, mango, mangoim, and not mangim. Solo, soloim, not soloim. Shampoo, shampooim, not shampim. Canoe, canoeim, not canim. Guru, not guruim. Guruim, not guru. There is guruim, which is Hebrew cups, but something else. Ego, egoim. Igloo, igluim. Euro, euroim. Lego, legoim. Okay. Here, I couldn't find any examples of deleting the last vowel. That's why it's in yellow. Should have been red, actually. In contrast, in the next examples, I found, and again, people who know Hebrew might don't like some of the examples because they're rare, but they're found. So kangaroo, kangaroim, alongside kangurim. Again, I put the ones without deletion in green because they are the default. But for all these lists, and I'll talk about the methodology in a minute, I could find a few examples with deletion. So avocado, avocadoim, flamingo, flamingim, espresso, espressoim, espressim, tiramisu, tiramisuim, tiramisim, pitango, pitangoim, pitangim, kakadu, kakaduim, kakadim, tuxedo, tuxedoim, and tuxedim, not poison, that's something else. Placebo, placeboim, and placebim. So just to convince you, let me show you two online examples, even almost a minimal pair. So these are both from recipes. לחתוך לחתיכות קטנות 5-6 אבוקדואים, okay? Cut 5 to 6 avocados into small pieces, versus אני יכול לנחש את המתכון, כנראה 5-6 אבוקדים. Okay, so you have 5 to 6, I can guess the recipe, probably 5 to 6 avocados. So in very similar context, we can find both avocadoim, which is again the default, and avocadim. You don't like the example?
No, I like the example.
Okay. Well, that's not the. Okay. Lim'och. It should have been lim'och. Limp. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the explanation. I'll get to it in a minute. That's the same, and the same from flamingo. אפשר ללכת מסביב לבריכות המים ולראות פלמינגואים ורודים. Okay, you can go around the water pools and see hundreds of pink flamingos versus פלמינגים ורודים מקננים במושבות של כמה מאות. Pink flamingos are nesting in colonies of few hundred. So again, we have pink flamingos, the same noun phrase. In most cases, it's flamingoing. It's important to stress, but we can also find flamingo. Now, the methodology of this study is based on web searches, online searches which I conducted, and it has many problems. Why? First of all, I don't know who wrote these examples. They could native speakers, non-native speakers, bilinguals. Like I said, the examples are quite rare. There are not so many words that end with vowels like o and u, so I cannot do any statistics. But what's important is my analysis relies not on the examples that were found or not found, but the contrast between, let me go back, between these that had no variation at all. Here I could absolutely not find any examples of deletion. So the contrast between these versus these, okay? Examples like this, which again, most of them don't have deletion, but there could be found some examples. Mine, yes, but
and moreover, there is no reason that somebody could say, okay, there's a problem with the fact that we don't know if it's a native speaker or a bilingual speaker or something. But there's no reason that there would be more occurrences of non-native speakers saying mango than there would be of non-native speakers.
Absolutely.
So I think at least that kind of objection is not valid in this case. So the methodology of looking in Google, right? You find all kinds of kengerim, and many people can do. You don't find it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So people might object to this and say, okay, but I don't accept this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, maybe the person who wrote this is not a native speaker. How do you know? But the point is that there's as much chance that a non-native speaker wrote this one, the plural of kangaroo, than the plural of mango. But the plural of mango never gets.
Right.
Never gets.
Yeah.
So it's not an objection that holds.
Right.
There's
Because you would expect a non-native speaker to rather go for the regular form, weird form with deletion.
Right. No, but even if, let's say, in 10 years there will be a technical device to discover exactly whether all these examples were written by non-native speakers, so the title of the paper would be a variation of pluralization among non-native speakers. But the analysis would be the same, because the question would remain, why do non-native speakers delete the vowel in kanguim, but not in mango? Yes. Okay, so what is the contrast, like you said, between these versus these? Number of syllables, okay? I checked stress, but I couldn't find any generalization. The generalization is that when the word consists of 3 or more syllables, deletion is possible. Again, not very common, but possible. In 2 syllables and less, impossible. Tiramisu, yes. Yeah. So, yes, probably. I can, yeah, I don't know how it's pronounced.
It's a very
Yeah.
nice question, because usually what happens in stress final loans is that they keep their stress. So bazar, it's not bazarim, it's bazarim.
Mm-hmm.
But here, when you leave the vowel, stress does go into it. It's a nice,
Yeah.
nice part. But the thing is that you don't know what the stress is in the written form on Google.
Right, right. From in the other cases where, like in Kangu, I'm sure it's a Kangurim and not Kangurim. Kangurim, sorry, yeah, Kangurim and not Kangurim. Yeah. There is no reason to shift it somewhere else. Yeah, yeah, it seems like the default. Right. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's nice. I don't know how reasonable it is. Boy, somebody could say, okay, if I have stress on the final vowel, then I don't drop it.
No, the thing that you want to be faithful to is in the page, but you cannot be faithful because there's nothing to be faithful to, then you go
For the default.
Possibly. I think
Yeah.
it would be nice to find more examples like this, so I thought.
Right, but they're very rare. Yeah, I think it's the only one.
Kakadu is another.
Oh.
It's not. It's just on I think.
Yes, yeah,
So, Kakadim.
Kakadim, I guess. Yeah. No.
Is there something
I think
you should find something from French that ends with an O.
Yeah. Chateau. No, but the two syllables. Yeah.
but this might be
Ah.
it's an intuition.
No. So just to show, just a minute. Avocado. Okay, so what I argue is that deletion is possible mostly in cases where the base consists of two more syllables. And again, the principle here is very intuitive. What I argue is that when the word is phonologically rich enough, okay, in terms of syllabic structure, it can survive deletion. Okay, again, it's not preferred, but it's possible. When you have only two syllables, so if you take again a word like mango, so the contrast here is not between penguin and kangaroo, between mango and avocado from the same domain. Okay, if you take mango and get mangim, you lose one vowel out of the two, so you lose too much lexical information, and it is less retrievable, less faithful to the base. Again, in avocadim, it's also not faithful to the base, but it can survive. So the example which I like to give is some kind of metaphor. If you steal 10 euros from a multimillionaire, so he might not like it, but he can survive. But if you take it from a poor person, it might be his lunch or dinner. So it's much more severe. So again, when the base is not rich enough, deletion is completely blocked. When it's three syllables or more, the language can, the system can survive. Among other things, what else do like number of consonants or yeah, it could. It'll probably give the same results. Yeah.
Because when you say rich, you mean recognizable
Mm-hmm.
in a way.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so I would say the more segments you have, as you advance in the word, you get more recognizable.
Right.
And not the more syllables, or maybe the more syllables. There's like information.
Yeah.
We know that comes from better and how
Mm-hmm.
the meaning of a word. But I guess
Yeah.
measure, right?
It would be eventually, I think, the same. Because so if it's the number of consonants, so let's say if you take a word with, I know, very, very complex onset and coda, which is disyllabic. So according to a prediction, there is greater chances for deletion in such word, despite the fact that it has only two syllables. I have to check it. I again, in the examples that I have, I can. Right, yeah, absolutely. By the way, it doesn't mean that you can always delete the vowel when you have more than two syllables. There are some counter examples, like, for example, let's take a look at this one. Okay, for these words, I couldn't find deletion. Casino, casinoim. I couldn't find casinim. Okay, carpaccio, carpaccium. There's no carpaccium. Escargot. Okay, again. But there's no deletion, unlike tiramisu. So escargoim, I couldn't find escargim. Torpedo, torpedoim, I couldn't find torpedim. I don't know why. Again, I tried to look at stress maybe, but I couldn't find any generalization about the consonants, about syllable structure. I couldn't find any generalization. So, but again, the examples are very few. So the contrast is between, and the main claim is that, again, two syllables, deletion is out. Three syllables, deletion is possible for the reason I said before. By the way, when we examine such words, we also have to examine what happens in native words. And like I said, words that end with O and U in Hebrew are very, very rare, but I could find a few. So just to show you, and here we also have orthographic matters. So for example, we have mahbo, a hideout, mahboim, or in child language, mahboim. Here I wrote the glottal stop in mahboim, sorry, mahboim. Here I wrote the glottal stop in parentheses because there is a letter in Hebrew represents the glottal stop, and it is kept in the plural form, so it might also have an effect. And there's stress shift, yeah. But it also happens when there is no final letter that represents the glottal stop. So in kishu, kishuim, nasu, predicate, nasuim, nasuim, mishehu. Again, that's very common. Mishuim or mashehu, mashuim, the plural. Sorry? No glottal stop. Yeah, because again, these words are typically not pluralized, or they are treated as some kind of non-integrated words. And also the blend crembo, which means literally cream in it, which is some kind of a treat. So you say cremboim. Again, no stress shift and no glottal stop. You don't say cremboim. Okay. But again, I think these are the only words that exist, and maybe there are a few more. They are very rare in Hebrew. So this again shows that Hebrew speakers don't really know how to deal with it. And as a result, there is greater variation.
To get more fusibility with already existing words in Hebrew. Like, for example, something that would be man. Maybe not that one, but I don't know, all the others, maybe when you have just the first syllable without the final vowel, you have more confusibility with native words that already exist.
Yeah, you're saying that. You're saying that the existing of a word of a Hebrew word might block it. Yeah. So the example, the only thing that I had is guru. Okay. So gurim. So if you had gurim, again, it would be with the stress would not shift, but it would look at it to gurim, which is the plural of gur in Hebrew, which is cubs. The stress would be different, but otherwise it would be the same. But again, that's the only example that I could think of. I don't think that this is the main reason that for blocking deletion, because it happens in so many other cases.
But it is true to some extent that modern Hebrew words, and many words in modern Hebrew are just 2 syllables long. So, and they try to remain 2 syllables even in the suffix form. It's, you know, the thing is that once you have a 3-syllable word, it really does already kind of look like an unsuffix 3-syllable word. Already looks like a non-native word.
Right, right, and so the chances of keeping it as is more.
Whereas these also look like non-native words because they're not stressed like even native words are stressed in the last vowel usually. That's very specific. So even these bases like mango, solo, shampoo. Okay, but yeah, you see, we don't agree on the vowels.
Yes.
But that's typical. We don't care about the vowels specific between vowels in normal.
Right. Yeah, and also the sequences of vowels like o, u, or o, the same vowel. We don't have such words in Hebrew. Oh, what was the example? Yeah, I say shampoo, and you say shampoo. Shampoo. With kangaroo, I have variation. Yeah. I don't think so.
It's the same letter, so you just have to know whether it's oral. And based on the orthography, there's no way of knowing.
Right. And it reminds me of a scene from Israeli movie. I'll tell you after it. So you probably know what I mean about shampoo. Okay. Okay. So that's generalization about O and U. And like I said, it doesn't mean that deletion can apply any word, but when it can apply, it only with 3 words. So that's for O and U. So just to make an initial summary, with A, we have systematic deletion, pizza, pizzot, lasagna, lasagniot. With O and U, we have, in most cases, no deletion. Okay, we keep the base faithful, the plural form faithful to the base, and we do have deletion. It's only when the base is rich enough in terms of numbers of syllables. Now, with hand loan words that end with E, we have some variation somewhere in the middle. I'll start with the examples, actually. Okay, CD, for example. En tam litzrov sidim. Okay, so here we delete the E, one of the E's. Okay. Versus אולי אשים להם אוזניות ואנגן להם כמה CDים. Okay? So here we don't delete the last vowel, CD, CDים. Another example, USB. Okay? כמה דגמים ספציפיים של דיסקים חיצוניים או USBים. Again, we delete one of the E vowel. Versus, אני מנסה, several models of external disks as USBs. Versus, oops. Okay. Okay. Let it pass.
In CD, it's CD or CD or CD?
CD. CD. Like in English, CD.
For in English, we will like a compound, right? Both syllables.
No, in Hebrew we say CD.
CD,
Yeah.
Just one word.
Yeah.
But USB,
USB or
USB is like
more
a compound.
But whatever, yeah.
But it's still
It doesn't change.
okay. I have something to say about this when you finish
Okay.
talking about this.
So in some words, what is interesting here is that in some words we can find the plural form with and without deletion, like DVD. So we have DVDim or DVDim, raviolim, raviolim, CDim, CDim, USB, USBim, and USBim. But in some cases, deletion is a must. Okay, like gnocchi, I could find only gnocchim, not gnocchim. Tsunami, I could find only tsunamim, not tsunamim. Emoji, okay, emojim and not emojim. So here we have a slightly different case, okay? It's always possible to delete the last vowel. In some cases, it's a must. And again, I don't know why, okay? I don't know why the ones in yellow don't have, cannot have, must have deletion, while the others don't. But we find such cases only with words that end with E, and that's the important the generalization. Okay, in O and U, there was no case where deletion was a must. In A, it's always a must. In E, it's somewhere in between. And again, in order to explain it, we also have to go back to Hebrew and see what happens in Hebrew. So again, let's take a few Hebrew words that end with E, and you can see that we have quite a big mess. Kli, kelim, tool. So we have alternation and deletion. Nachlieli, which is a kind of burn. Nachlielim, yeah.
So no two E's.
No. Gdi, gdaim. So here we add the consonant year for young male goat. Dli, bucket, dlaim. E, island, iyim. Tzvi, gazelle, tzvaim. Pri, perot. Okay, MS. Okay, such words are very, very rare.
But the important
Right.
That is obligatorily obligatory suffix only right? Nachlieli, not nachlieli.
Right.
Is there an end there?
Yeah, there's an M missing. Right. Right.
So it's not embarrassing. Maybe it would be interesting to find other cases from Hebrew. How do people know that Nachlieli is from Hebrew? Also?
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't resemble anything.
Exactly.
No, yeah, he behaves. No, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't.
No.
Because he doesn't take the stress.
But yeah.
He doesn't show the stress.
Right.
And it's very long, too long.
Right.
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 So it might be like historically Hebrew, but it really
It behaves.
like,
Yeah.
It's not a very.
No. I don't think so.
it's a small black and white bird, right? That announces in Israel, No, that is something else. It's the something else that comes before the autumn, right? Not
Yes.
before the spring.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so before I attempt to explain it, the question is to drop or not to drop the vowels. And like I said before, we have basically two competing constraints for and against dropping the vowels: faithfulness constraints, no deletion, and markedness constraints, avoiding, okay, diphthongs, hiatus, or whatever it is, but it's a marked structure that Hebrew usually doesn't. Now, what I argue is that there is some kind of scale of vowel droppability, in the sense that some vowels are more easily dropped than others. I am deliberately not talking about e at this stage because e is very rare and the thought is even more messy than anything else. I'll talk about it at the end a little bit. But the scale is between three groups. In a, there is always deletion, pizza, pizzot, not pizzaot. In o, there is deletion in most cases, and there is no deletion. It's only when the base is rich enough. So mango, mangoim. So here we have only disyllabic words, mangoim and not mangim. And in E, we have greater variation, sidim versus sidim. Okay, why? Okay, here I relate to the term, I rely on the notion of serval consonant, serval phones, but specifically serval consonants. Just of curiosity, how many, do you know this term? Okay, I also didn't. Uti bat el. Servile, from the word to serve. Uti bat el, my supervisor, one of my supervisors, introduced it to me. It occurs in several works of Yip and McCarthy and Prince and Mifsud, in Arabic and Maltese. So servile consonants, from the word to serve, are consonants that have some kind of grammatical function, which are perceived as more grammatical than others. And the example. Good question. Okay. Yeah, and I also say servial. I would say servial, but it's servile. Yeah. 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 I'll demonstrate with respect to the Arabic broken plural. So in Arabic, there are two main strategies of pluralization: adding affixes, like we have in Hebrew, but also templatic, non-concatenative formation in patterns. One of them is the AAI pattern. So we have, for example, maktab office, makatib offices. We don't add anything, we just form it in a different pattern, or funduk, hotel, fanatic. But when the base consists of more than 4 consonants, we usually delete one of them. For example, we have barnamij, which is program or plan, and the plural is baramij. It's in the same pattern of AAI, and we get rid of one of the consonants. And why do we delete, for example, the n and not the r? The explanation that McCarthy and Prince propose is that n is a servile consonant, servile consonant. Why? Because it's part of affixes. Specifically in Arabic, it's part of the first person plural affixes in many conjugations. In possession, so for example, we have barnamij and barnamijna, our plan. So na is the suffix for our. In verbs, also in imperfective forms like nifham, we understand, and also in perfective past forms, himna, we understood. So the n is automatically identified with first person plural, so it is perceived, I'll say it very carefully, it has the chances of being perceived as less lexical, which means we can give it up more easily. Okay, so that's why we tend, and they show other examples, when we have to delete the consonants, we opt for consonants that are servile. Okay. Okay, so for example, a consonant like r, okay, in Arabic and also in Hebrew, is never servile because it is never part of any suffix. It cannot be perceived as grammatical in any sense. Okay, so that's for consonants. So I thought that maybe it could also be relevant to vowels. So is there such a thing, servile vowels? Not really, because all vowels are servile. At least in Hebrew and in Arabic, we can find each of the 5 vowels of Hebrew as part of some affix. But they are not servile to the same degree, to the same extent. And more specifically, they are not servile in the same paradigms. And this is my main argument, that some vowels can be dropped more easily because they are part of some kind of dropping paradigm. And I'll demonstrate. So I'm not talking about vowel servility, but a vowel servility, but vowel droppability. Again, a is always dropped in Hebrew paradigms. Okay, a as a suffix never survives. U and o are never dropped in Hebrew. Okay, you cannot. They are part of some affixes, but we never come across cases where they are dropped. E is somewhere in the middle. Why? Okay, so this is what I said.
So O and U are part of affixes, but they are never dropped.
Right, right.
So now you're thinking about affixes and not vocalization.
Right.
Whereas vocalization, under this definition of servility, are also servile.
They're all servile, yeah.
No, but I mean vocalization, something that are probably here.
In which sense?
Vocalization in terms of the vowels inside the stem. Because they also carry grammatical information.
Absolutely.
Also servile, and then O sometimes does drop in the middle of the stem.
Like what? Sorry? Okay. Wait, yeah, I'm talking about only in terms of affixes. Yeah, thank you.
So it's important to know to keep the meaning of servile for vowels and affixes, not all grammatically.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, what I'm saying, so thanks for the clarification, just to make sure it's clear that a as a suffix, is very frequently dropped in paradigms, in pluralization paradigms. O and U can be part of affixes, but they're never dropped. E lies somewhere in the middle. And I'll demonstrate it with respect to the derivational suffix. Okay, E can be a derivational suffix. For example, if you take the country Lebanon, so you say Lebanoni, okay? And as you pointed out rightfully, it doesn't have to shift the stress. We have seen China, Sini. Okay, sometimes it doesn't take the stress, but regardless, when we pluralize Lebanoni, Lebanese can be a noun, like there was a Lebanese in the room, or an adjective, like the Lebanese teacher. When we pluralize it, we can drop the vowel, but we don't have to in all cases. So you can say Lebanonim. So here we drop one of the vowels, and it can be both a noun and an adjective. So I can say something like, there were 3 Lebanonim in the room. There were 3 Lebanese in the room. But because of the 3 Lebanese teachers in the room, Ayu Shlosha Morim Lebanonim. We don't drop it, and we add the year in between only when it's adjectival. Okay, so Lebanonim can never, to my best knowledge, be a noun, but it can be an adjective. Okay.
For the Lebanonim can be a plural adjective. So with just one E, it can be a plural adjective only when it refers to. No, actually, okay, no, I think.
Lebanonim can be both, and Lebanonim can be only an adjective. So something like, there were 3 Lebanese there, so Ayusham Shlosha Lebanonim, strange, right? Okay. It's a name, yeah, it's a name.
It's true for non-loans.
Yeah. Okay, so the point here is that E can be dropped, okay, but it doesn't have to be dropped, okay? So dropping E is less frequent, less familiar, and this reflects itself in loan words as well. So again, if we go back to these examples, okay. So again, in pizza, you drop the A systematically because in Hebrew paradigms, you always drop the A. So there is a great reliance of what happens in native words, okay? Or you never come across cases where you drop the O in Hebrew or U in Hebrew, so you never delete in loan words, unless it's rich enough. With E, again, it's shaky in the middle because in Hebrew itself, sometimes you drop it and sometimes you don't. So we have, I think, a very nice reflection of what happens in Hebrew in loan words as well, which is interesting by itself because loan words are supposed they're also called by Schwarzwald non-integrated words. They seem to have their own grammar or partially own grammar, but we see that it's not always the case because sometimes they reflect what happens in Hebrew.
Specifically, from my experience, loanwords, vowels and loanwords tend to abide by the rules of the language, of the host language, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you might borrow some consonant that you're able to pronounce, but
Oh.
you're not going to borrow some vowel that you're not, right? So
Yeah. Eitan has a work on it. Grossman, right? I think.
yeah, I don't know
I
about
think.
it, but I think it's very robust. So French would borrow "che" from other languages, but Hebrew would.
Yeah.
Neither would borrow the vowels of English.
Right.
You really have to use the vowels of your own language.
Yes.
This is sort of like related to this.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay.
What about the vowel reduction in loans in Catalan?
I mean, there can be partial vowel reduction. So normally you go to schwa, but opening vowels would go to closing vowels. So you have a special vowel reduction.
By the way, in Hebrew, that's something new that I'm working on. Let's see what you think. In Hebrew, we reduce many vowels.
Mhm.
But what is the most reduced vowel in Hebrew? A,
For me.
not E?
Oh, of course. A you would just delete.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, deleting A is
Yeah, delete E.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you can also find it in more commonly in loanwords with E. Things like matematica,
Yeah.
or things like, how do you pluralize the psychiater?
Yeah,
Psychi-
do
psych-
both.
Psychiatrim or psychiatrim, right? But we don't have it with O and U, I think.
No, of course. A is
Yeah.
really syncopatable.
Right.
But I thought that. So I didn't realize that. Yeah, dropping really, you can find it with A or but I also found it with O. I heard it with O some example.
Of loanwords?
Yeah.
Like what?
I thought the person was crazy, but he was talking about monotheism.
Okay.
Instead of monotheism,
Yeah.
saying monotheism,
Monteism? Okay. Yeah.
which for me is like very
Right.
Try to look for monotheism on Google. Maybe you'll find it.
Yeah, we have the Vav here. Yeah. And then we can find others. Okay. So E can be dropped, but it is not obligatory in all cases, and this is also reflected in loanwords. Okay, so before I get to that, okay. So just to make an interim summary, again, we have three groups of vowels: A, E, and O and U together. A systematically we have deletion. O in most cases we have no deletion, and when we do it's phonologically conditioned. And E is somewhere in the middle. Now I want to turn to what happens with respect to derivation versus inflection. And here we have a different picture. Let's take a look. Take the word cello. Okay, cello. By the way, this is also exceptional with respect to pluralization because it has two syllables, but we have deletion. So we can find both celloim and cellim. I think this is historical because in Italian, the plural of cello is celli, or violoncelli, or concerti. Okay, so maybe this is that's why. And just an anecdote, I used to play the cello when I was young, and I was in the music department in junior high, but I was not very good at it. But I remember back then, when I was 13 or 14, that I thought about why we say celloim or celloim. It was much more interesting for me than the playing the cello, even though I come from a musical family. My mother is a pianist in Philharmonic. I went to languages. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so for cello, we can find celloim and cellim, but when it's inflection. But when we have a derivation suffix, it's the other way around. We mostly delete the suffix. Okay, so a cellist, the suffix is an. So you have cellan, but never, to my best knowledge, celloan. Okay, so it's just the other way around. We must delete the suffix. And let's see some more examples. Solo. So in inflection, soloim, never solim. But in derivation, we have two suffixes here. So again, an, a solo singer, we have solan, but never soloan. With ist, as you pointed out to me, we can find both. We can find solist or soloist, okay? Which is like a person an independent person who likes to work on his own. But again, the contrast is between inflection when deletion is not an option, and in derivation, at least with some suffixes, it's a must. The same for kangaroo with the diminutive suffix. So in inflection, we can find kanguruim or kangurim. In diminution, we add diminutive forms, we add the suffix on, so we can find kanguron, but never kanguruon. Okay? So, yeah?
Yes. So the idea just goes to on and can move on.
Right,
Unlike it can move.
right, right.
Right? So there is a sort of feeling that once you add on to something or on,
Yeah.
but not
Mhm.
you kosherize it, right? You
It's-
Hebrewize it.
Yeah,
And in that case, it means that that it cannot be Hebrewized with uon.
Right. Yes.
Bad.
yeah. But also with ist, I mean, again, we can find such examples, but in most cases, we do delete it. You said shushuist, right? Maybe because, but for example, a piccolo player.
Yeah. Forget about music related terms, because they're like they come from above.
Okay.
Think about stuff that comes from below, like twist. Twist is somebody who does something secret in the army.
It's from right? Yeah, shushu. Yeah, yeah.
And but you have a yeast, you never have a yeast. Maybe that's for like
Oh, okay.
anything that ends with vowel will never get. The only very few examples that I know of language, the examples that you gave, Chimbali.
Yeah. No, so you say with ist it will mostly not be deleted? So what example do you have for shushu? Yeah, but right. But what other examples?
Egoist, I don't know.
No, but egoist is.
Take Subaba, okay?
Yeah.
The person who drives a Subaba, not a Subaru. Okay?
I have to
At
check.
least
Yeah.
more readily Subaru.
Subaruist. Okay. Okay.
But you know, the thing is that it's a different kind of methodology from what you do, right? You just look at the stuff and you try to see what is written on the internet.
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
And what we're doing here is like self-interrogation.
Also, yeah, I do both.
Yeah. So it seems to me that with East, the tendency is not to believe. So I do agree that soloist is the best way.
Yeah,
I think
it's
soloist and soloist are also different. They might be different.
in meaning.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe also like so. I don't know. English is a soloist.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
it is.
English is a soloist.
yeah.
But in Hebrew, soloist can also mean solan. And soloist,
But it's
maybe
not.
not.
I'm not sure that is not soloist.
Yeah.
Soloist.
But these are terms for music, and the music terms come from above.
What do you mean from above?
They are dictated. They are like standardized.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Educated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, yeah. So Shambhala.
In particular, in classical music.
Yeah.
If it were from rap music or something else. maybe
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it was hard to find such examples, but I need to look for more.
Disco, right?
Yeah.
Is it hit or discoist? Sounds discoist.
Discoist. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is
It's a short word.
yeah, that's another word.
Yeah.
Somebody who likes oregano.
Organist is the organ player.
Not oregano,
No.
oregano.
Oh, yeah. So
I would actually go with it. I would accept organist there and not in the
I think it's also about the number of syllables. Also, shushu, yeah, it's because you're left with nothing.
So East might be behaving like the
Partially, yeah, partially. Okay, and why is it so? Okay, why in derivation we tend to delete the vowel and in inflection not? I assume that it's also related to the distinction between lexicon and syntax, assuming the derivation applies in lexicon and derived words are stored. So if we take again something like Solan versus Soloan, okay, in contrast to Soloim versus Solim, we have the undesired hiatus or diphthong or whatever it is. Once it's in the syntax and it's not stored, I think the language can still tolerate it. Okay, something like Soloan, okay, to store something with the O'an is less tolerated in Hebrew, and once it's in the lexicon, the morphological mechanism tries to avoid it. In the syntax, uniformity within the inflectional paradigm is ranked higher, and it can survive these undesired structure. And again, it's a tendency because you can find opposite examples in both cases. But what I'm saying is that the lexicon we tend to delete in order to avoid ill-formed constructions. In the syntax, we tend to tolerate them more easily for the sake of paradigmatic uniformity.
So in a way, we have two phonologies.
Yeah.
One in the lexicon and one is it's more than two word formation. It means you have two phonologies, two phonological grammars. One in the lexicon and one in the syntax. So one phonological grammar that evaluates Solan versus Soloan, okay, and one phonological grammar that evaluates Soloim versus Solim, and then they have different rankings if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about it in terms of two different phonologies, but as morphology and phonology interacts separately with the lexicon in the syntax, and each interaction has its own characteristics. So in each interaction, different rankings or different constraints are taken into consideration because they are not completely the same. There is a lot. I mean, there is a lot of zliga. How do you say it? Like, yeah, from both sides. It's not a dichotomy. It's not that in the syntax it's always like that, and in the lexicon it's always like that. They have a lot in common, but the tendency is to do one thing in the lexicon and another thing in the syntax.
A message from Dana Cohen, who is looking at us and saying that she agrees with soloist versus Solan being different, and that East is more likely to preserve it.
Is more like, yeah.
She said she cannot hear the audio.
Okay.
No, just on I don't know what's going on Google because my computer. I don't see it. On YouTube, I don't see if there are comments there.
Oh yes, there are actually. No, but the comments are, I can't hear. Okay, so that's the story in inflections versus derivation. But again, also just about East, again, so it behaves differently, I agree, but it's not completely like inflection, but it's also not completely like derivation. It's somewhere in the middle. Okay, now with the remaining time for the conclusion, let's see what happens with just of curiosity. Again, I don't have anything sophisticated to say because there is a mess. Okay, so you have soufflé, soufflame, filet, filetim. So here orthography plays a role. We also have a verb lefalet, like to, how do you say, to cut the fish, like filet. Buffet, I found buffetim and buffeim. Okay, orthography also plays a role. And ceviche, again, orthography, I find cevichim or cevichim, but also cevichot. Okay? Why? Because it ends with a letter that also goes with a, so it can be perceived as feminine. Again, it's just anecdotal. I don't have any conclusions to say, but just to show you, forgot to say. So something like, okay, ישבתי מול המטבח, אכלתי שתי cevichot. Okay, I had to. Yes, but only because of orthography, I think, because of the hey. Yeah, but also במסעדות היא אוכלת קרפצ'יו או סטייק בלו, או סטייק בלו, okay, בלו, או cevicheim, okay, הכי מתוחכמים, okay. So again, it just reflects the mess that we have in Hebrew, because in Hebrew, I had this discussion. I can think both exist.
Yeah, sure, both exist because it's a V, like in the other, like in the original word.
Yes.
I agree that people, the way it's written, you cannot distinguish between V and T.
Yeah.
Right? So people just go say ceviche because. Yeah. I think orthography is a lot. Is very responsible for all these variations.
Yeah.
In pronunciation of those.
Yeah. So here again, the buffet and the filet, and also bouquet. It's a bouquet, bouquetim. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Not a few, but I found it. Yeah.
Or balletti, which is really weird.
No, but we say ballet anyway.
Yeah. But
No, but
in the original language, it's not
ballet. Yeah, but balletim is not weird because yeah.
Just weird with respect to the place.
Yeah. Okay.
No, valid can be very bad.
Hebrew words that what? Hebrew words that native words that end with a are also where we have them in certain patterns, and a is also usually deleted. So mivne, mivnim, structure, ma'afe, ma'afim. I write here again the H in parentheses because it's just the letter. But also when there is an aleph, like something that represents a glottal stop, which is not pronounced, noseh, nosim, pele, plaim. The glottal stop? Okay. In the middle one. Yeah. But we have mashke, mashkaot. Again, so about A, I don't have any generalization to say, only that it's very rare and very messy, and it needs further investigation. By the way, I forgot to say before we talked about derivation, it is related to what Noam said before. Derivational suffixes also shift the stress, unlike inflectional. So we have, for example, tractor. So in plural, it's tractorim, but in diminutive, it's tractoron. I guess mini tractor. Okay, so again, it shows that derivation is more intrusive to the base. It can change it more, and I'll use your term kosherize it. I like it. Make it more adaptable to hip. Sorry? Okay. No, why?
Because means that
okay. Yeah, but it's linguistically, it's a nice, a nice word. So it's just again further support for the claim that derivation works differently with loan words than inflection. Okay, to conclude. So I examined a final vowel deletion of Hebrew loan nouns, and I've shown that it is partially predictable because some vowels are more easily deleted than others. Again, A is systematically deleted, O and U hardly deleted, and when it is, it's only when the base is rich enough, and E is somewhere in the middle. E is just different and peculiar. So the droppability is based mostly on paradigm accessibility and paradigmatic relation between words. The more it is deleted, the more the vowel is deleted within existing paradigms, the easier it is deleted with loan words as well. So loan words behave differently from native words in pluralization. They have some kind of separate grammar, but what is important for me to claim is that when we encounter something which does not exist in Hebrew at all, or it is very rare in Hebrew, we go back to what happens in our native words. And it is related to what you said about the special status of vowels in borrowing in general, that they are less likely to be borrowed than consonants. So also in respect to deletion, when we have no choice, we go to the sources. It also shows, so that's what I show. I also want to say that we have to remember that we also have accessibility to the morphophonological structure and features of loanwords, because usually we treat loanwords as some kind of aliens. They don't have patterns, they don't have existing suffixes, they don't have a recognizable structure. But we see that when Hebrew speakers have to, they like look inside, unconsciously, of course, look inside the structure of loanwords as well, and apply the relevant rules accordingly. So in general, the study adds to previous accounts of language variation and change, which I find interesting, and the motivation for such change. And here it interacts with the degree of adaptation of degree of adaptation and the integration of loanwords, and it provides direct access to word formation and shows how different types of constraints and criteria are taken into consideration together. And again, about the methodology, I used only web searches, but this can be the base for psycholinguistic studies, experiments, and yeah, judgments or different tasks. Yeah, like asking people to form plural forms, etc. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so now, when people ask questions, maybe you can repeat it.
Oh, sure, sure.
We already asked a lot of questions, right? And I'm waiting to see whether she has questions.
No, I have
Okay.
things about marking softwares. Not deleting the voids, marking the I got my
Okay.
My question, can we just, my questions are just questions of clarification. So if we go, so in general, we have resistance, no, we have acceptance of deletion in trisyllabic words, of deletion of the final vowel.
We're talking about O and U.
Yes.
O and U, yeah, yeah.
Let's look at the vowels that you can delete. Before it, I think it's really nice. It shows a lot of things.
Thanks.
Okay? So we have acceptance of deletion of O and U in long words. So
long
words.
Yes.
Okay? So long words. I think what you really have to do, or if, when this thing matures, sorry for it, if I say
No.
is to present something more concrete. Because now you say, okay, this happens, and this is more important than that. You really have to present something more concrete in order to see what is really the difference between the syntax part of, or at least what is really different in the syntax part of the morphology and the non-syntax part of morphology. And you also have to show.
Wait, but you said two things. You said about the number of syllables and syntax and lexicon. There's two different things.
Yeah, okay, the number of syllables was, is the number of syllables important in the lexicon? Okay, I guess that's the question that I so we saw that the number of syllables is important in deletion patterns in what you call the inflection. Right?
Yes.
Right.
It allows the deletion only when the base is rich enough. Again, this is only for derivation. It's also possible to delete when the base is not rich enough for other reasons. So that's.
So the question is whether. Okay. Yeah,
I think okay.
What difference between rich bases and less rich bases in derivation?
Okay, so let's separate. In inflection, you can drop the vowel only when you have 3 syllables and more.
Yeah.
In derivation, you usually, putting the east aside, you usually drop the vowel, the last vowel, regardless of the number of syllables. And I think what you're asking, correct me if I'm wrong, is that maybe also in the lexicon there could be differences based on the number of syllables.
Yeah.
So again, with respect to suffixes like an and on, from what I've seen, it's always dropped, regardless of the number of syllables. Like solo, it's 2 syllables, solan. If it were like a mini solo, it would be solon, not solo on, I guess.
Those are completely out for me. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Whatever,
Exactly.
Even if the base is long, if I add on and on, I cannot have the vowel before it. Right?
Even if it's short, you mean? If it's long, it's easier. It's even easier.
It would be easier if I extreme example of syntax. But
Yeah.
if we're looking only at the lexicon, I can never leave the vowel there.
Right, regardless of the number of syllables.
But with east, which is also derivation,
Yeah.
it's different. So now
Mm-hmm.
this is interesting in terms of the data in the lexicon,
Mm-hmm.
because now we're going to end up saying that not only are there different phonologies for the lexicon and the syntax,
Yeah.
different grammars, right? So
I like to call different interactions, okay, but different.
it's the same thing. So
Yeah.
you put it to the same, to different filters.
Yeah, yeah.
So not only are there different phonologies for the lexicon and the grammar, so different grammar for the lexicon and the syntax, but also within the lexicon there are different grammars. Because one is the grammar of on and another one is the grammar of east.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Those are it's a claim that Micha and Becker
Yeah.
upholds. That you may have different phonologies for different
Yeah.
suffixes.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's a point to look at.
So okay, so let's think about something again with an and on derivational suffixes. We cannot tolerate the vowel anyway, regardless of the number of syllables, right?
Yeah, so even if you had, you know,
Yeah, like a small avocado, avocadon, not
Yeah.
avocado. And I found it, by the way,
Yeah.
not avocadon.
no.
Okay, okay.
So there's some
But-
sort of a late naturalization, but I'm taking this from French.
Yeah.
Naturalization.
Adaptation.
I don't know, but I think the word naturalization.
For me,
A long time ago, it was the word syntax.
Or nativization.
okay, yeah, nativization
Mm-hmm.
that is imposed with on,
Yeah.
but not with east.
Right.
Yeah, but
Right.
it's already-
But maybe
But
because
it's very, very frequent in Hebrew. So
Right.
add it
Yeah,
to-
but maybe it's still, you know, handled like or birds.
Okay, but then it means that east, which is derivation,
mm-hmm.
behaves like in, which is not derivation, inflection.
Mm-hmm.
And so here there's a mismatch. If east behaves like in, there's a mismatch between the so it goes against the distinction between lexicon and syntax.
I don't think it goes again. I think it doesn't behave like him. It's complicated. Yeah, it means that it's a scale. It's something. Yeah, but so the prediction would be that let's take east. So it would be easier to drop the vowel even with east if the base is long enough.
Yeah.
So something like let's take again shushuist. It's only 2 syllables, so you don't give shushist. Solist you do, but also soloist. But something like okay, a person who specializes in growing avocados, not avocadist. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have the vocalist is okay.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Or avocadoist.
Yeah.
Okay, but so the prediction would be that avocadist is accepted more easily than shushist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
if
that would
is
be
true,
fun,
if
yeah.
that is true, then it behaves exactly like in the syntax.
It's more similar to
Similar to
More- yeah,
It doesn't-
yeah, yeah.
Not exactly like in because in doesn't express where-
right, right.
But that sort of, you know, it's not the only thing. You have lots of things going for the syntax for online versus lexical word formation. But it sort of goes against this because it says that the important distinction is between suffixes that behave like east and in,
Mhm.
regardless of whether they're derivation or inflection.
Yeah.
And suffixes that behave like on.
I don't think it would go against it. It would show that it's less dichotomic. What would fine, fine, but I don't claim it's dichotomic. What would go against it if you find, for example, an inflectional affix that what's it? Forgot the word. מחייבת?
Obligate?
Oh yeah, thank you. Obligates deletion. That would go against my analysis.
Inflectional suffix.
Yeah.
The problem is that you have inflectional suffixes. You only have two.
Feminine. Yeah, but the feminine. Okay, what's the feminine of kangaroo? Or kangura? Yeah, that's another
It's
topic.
interesting to look at the feminine, but the feminines you can only get for animate.
Exactly. Right. Right.
And then you have to find animate loans that ends in a vowel.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's inherent inflection. So it's,
There's a sort of a pig that's called the Kovi,
okay.
and actually it's not a pig. And in the Jerusalem Zoo, there's a big sign that says in Yiddish for all of the visitors, all of the Orthodox visitors.
Oh.
This the Kovi is not a pig. They would like they don't like pigs.
Okay.
Right? So that's one word.
So the peccary is not.
It's not a pig.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, but it ends with e.
it ends with E, so that's one of the things that is looked at for the feminine Kovi.
But I think because it ends with e, it is take the t. Pecorit.
I would also think that.
Pecora?
I don't
No,
know.
no, okay.
And I
No,
think
but the ones that end with
that's-
u and u, and like kangurit and kangura, that's yeah. But it's also inherent inflection, and it's another type of inflection.
The thing is that there aren't many examples to test this difference when you speak about inflection versus derivation. you
I
talk
know.
about these, the in order versus others, or the pluralization versus other stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I need to look for more examples.
Like if I were really another type of inflection in Hebrew is possessive inflection. Okay?
Yeah, but it's not used on loanwords.
And it's not used on knowledge, but you could push people to use it. Right?
Yeah.
And see what
It's not used on native words as well, actually, except for like family members.
that's not really true. Right? Yeah, so you could say no on me.
But you say Noam Sheli.
Yeah, many people like Lior prefer to concentrate on spoken language, where this kind of suffixation is not at all absent, but it's really restricted to a closed set of nouns.
Yeah, family members and like.
No, quite a bit.
Like, okay.
You could say my turn, my right, his right.
Yeah, okay, but there's there's
against him, all of these things.
prepositions.
It's not a preposition, right? So
It's not?
there's a set of big words.
Okay, we have to talk about that.
It's something.
Okay.
There's a set of words that do things.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not there. It's
No.
everywhere in code, in written form and in songs and everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's not there in the spoken language for most nouns. Even in the written language, it's not available for some nouns.
Right.
But still, it's there. Suppose it's present, right? Now, what do people do with loanwords? Okay? It's true that loanwords tend to reject this kind of suffixation, but you do find them sometimes in written form. And then it's really this kind of thing that you like.
Yeah.
Then it's really confusing, right? Because you see a word, it has a suffix, a possessive suffix written down, and you just don't recognize this word. It takes a long time to recognize it. But it still exists. So people can do it. And then the question is, what happens when you add a suffix e, mine, like
Yeah.
no, me. Okay? You add it to kangaroo. Okay?
Yeah.
I think it would get kanguri.
Kanguri and not kangurui.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that means, what does that mean? It means that this is inflection.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing. According to your definition, whether it's inflection or
Yeah. Absolutely inflection.
If it's inflection, that means that inflection here can delete the vowel. Unlike the one, unlike in, or in was
Yeah.
able to delete.
Yes.
Mhm.
No, but in kangaroo, it's rare, but it's mostly kangarooim.
Yes, but it's in that, so this inflection behaves in the sense that if you only get kenguri,
Kangaroo. Yeah, for the by the way, for the adjective, you only get kangaroo, but this goes with what I said. But how do you say your kangaroo? Not guru? Okay.
But here stress is important again, when you're moving stress to that side.
These suffixes.
And they and
Yeah, so once you
right. Yeah.
No, for east, because east you won't stress them. It's not.
Yeah.
I would say so. Maybe something, I mean, related to stress. One way to see it is that you don't want to move stress, that means that the food has to be outside of the full suffix. Therefore, in moving, that would be bad because you would get a too small foot. So you want to, although you have monosyllabic teeth. I don't know how many long words you have ending in a consonant and beginning in monosyllabic.
Oh,
A lot
that's
of them.
A lot.
quite a lot, yeah.
In these cases, you also move stress.
Yeah.
No,
You don't.
Sorry, no, you don't.
You don't. Like mail him, fax him. No. Yes.
Moving, you can say, okay, you want to preserve that foot there because you know that the plural suffix will be outside of the foot. So maybe this is a bit.
But why is it outside of the foot in loan words, but not in
Well, because you want to be faithful to the stress position in the base only loan words, and it's a different ground for that in any theory. In any theory. So in Google, you know that you want to be faithful to Google.
Yeah.
You can do Google in being outside, Google in, right? But then Google is too small, so you preserve the vowel. In kangaroo, it's okay. Kangaroo, that would be a trophy because that's a special part. Im has to be outside of the foot. You can do kangaroo because your foot will still be isolated. I just say this because maybe I think this is much better than maybe a measure of information loss, but I don't know about those theories.
Right.
But what do you do with avocado? Does that work for avocado?
Yeah, so avocado, but then you rationally find that avocado, right? You just
There's no avocado. Yeah.
I cannot be avocado. Yeah.
But it's mostly avocado.
Avocado.
That's the default.
What about avocado?
Avocado. The food is still outside of the word, but you
so you have a different
syllable. Your word is long enough to restructure your food to be isolated. But I don't know about these theories about the information loss. Maybe it's much better. But I think just referring to monosyllabic versus disyllabic, and the fact that you want to impose strict binarity on the base in long words is okay.
And so in Google you would have a trochee, and in avocado you would have
an iron. Yeah, that's different because in avocado you have two ways to do it: cado, or you can do voca with misalignment, which is a bit strange. But see, avocado is once you have the resolidification, it's more.
What about the words with final stress, like?
And yeah, words with final stress. So that's what we said. So yeah,
kakadu,
right?
Yeah.
So like that.
Kakadu.
So in kakadu, of course, that's kakadu. You have an iron. You want to be faithful to that. If you delete the vowel, you cannot be faithful. So then you go for the unmarked option. Would be
Yeah, no, like tiramisu.
So you don't want to.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't have any statistics, and my impression is that all the examples were rare, but avocadoim is much better than tiramisim or than kakadim, because you lose the vowel, the stressed vowel. So I would propose a hierarchy, but again, the examples are so little, so it's hard. By the way, going back to your comment about the possession, so it's a separate presentation. It's something I'm working on now in Palestinian Arabic. So in Palestinian Arabic, the morphological possession is the default. You also have periphrastic possession. So if you say, for example, daftar, which is notebook, so daftara, I mean, in Hebrew, makhbartcha, in spoken language would sound very, I mean, we don't say it unless you want to be really official. But in Arabic, it's the default. You can also say a daftar tak or tabak, or there are different variants, like a syntactic form, like your notebook. So what I'm trying to show now is that in loanwords and also in some native words, we have exactly the same hierarchy. So in loanwords, we can easily attach the suffixes in Arabic. So we can say something like Kodak, your code, okay, or mailak, your email. There's also historical issues. So telephone, which is more like old in the language, so telefonak, no problem. But in, sorry, yes. Telephone, telefonak, yeah.
They don't have telephone.
Telephone. Oh yeah, yeah, it's right. But with it's again, it's initial impression, but it's harder to add the suffix with longer words because they less look like Arabic words. So for example, your hamburger, you can have hamburgerak, but there the chances of using the periphrastic form are higher. So if you can have male versus hamburger, so there'll be more al-male tak or tabak than sorry, less al-male tak than al-hamburger tak, and with words that end with vowels, it's even more. There is a greater tendency to take, so your avocado, again, you can say avocado, something, but it's almost impossible. You can say avocado tak. And also with existing word like masari, which is a Palestinian word, money, so say masarik, but it's mostly al masari tabak or muhami.
That's a very interesting.
Yeah, because it's just the mirror of Hebrew. Because here it's the default, the morphological position is the default, but in long words and also in vowel ending words, it behaves differently. So this is just the next paper. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I just could not can go on but I could not find many examples. Yeah. Avocadon I found, yeah, but not avocadon. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, on.
We don't have augmentative. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Lior.
Thank you very much. How do I stop it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Don't forget it, now you have to send it.
No. Maybe I ask you to delete.